Our planet is filled with extraordinary creatures, each with its own remarkable way of surviving. But how do they navigate their world? To truly understand an animal, we cannot simply observe it in a cage. We must venture into its natural home, into the wild, where its true abilities are revealed. This was the spirit that led a team of dedicated scientists to a remote corner of the Earth. Their mission was to uncover the secrets of the Egyptian fruit bat's incredible sense of direction. They wanted to see how these nocturnal flyers could travel vast distances in the dark and always find their way back home, a feat that has long puzzled the scientific community. The chosen location for this ambitious study was a place called Latham Island. It is a tiny, isolated speck of land off the coast of Tanzania. This isolation is precisely what made it the perfect natural laboratory for this kind of research. The island is completely flat, and has no tall trees or large geological features that the bats could easily use as visual cues. It is surrounded by nothing but the vast, open expanse of the Indian Ocean. This unique environment meant that any bat leaving the island would have to rely on something more than just sight to find its way across the empty water and back to its roost, providing a perfect test of its internal navigation system. The plan was simple in concept but incredibly challenging in practice. The scientists needed to catch the bats and attach tiny, lightweight GPS loggers to their backs. These devices, no bigger than a thumbnail, would record the bat's every movement, tracking its flight path with remarkable precision. The team worked carefully, ensuring the little backpacks didn't harm the bats or hinder their ability to fly. Once a bat was fitted with its device, it was released back into the wild to go about its nightly search for food. The hope was that the data collected would paint a clear picture of their mysterious journeys. However, nature often has its own plans. The research team faced significant delays due to the unpredictable weather of the region. The very ocean that made the island an ideal study site also brought powerful storms and relentless winds. These conditions made it impossible for the scientists to travel to the island on their small boat for days on end. They could only wait patiently for a calm window, their precious research time ticking away. This is the reality of fieldwork. It requires immense patience and respect for the powerful forces of the natural world, reminding us that we are merely visitors in these wild domains. After battling the weather and successfully retrieving the GPS loggers, the scientists began to analyze the incredible data they had collected. What they discovered was nothing short of revolutionary. The flight paths revealed that the bats weren't flying randomly into the night. Instead, they traveled in remarkably straight lines, heading directly to the mainland many kilometers away to find fruit. The data showed an astonishingly accurate sense of direction. This led the researchers to look deeper, not just at where the bats went, but how their brains might be controlling these precise journeys across the open sea, night after night, without fail. The key to this puzzle was found deep within the bat's brain. Scientists discovered a special group of neurons, or brain cells, that act like an internal compass. These are known as head direction cells. Astonishingly, these cells showed a consistent pattern of activity. No matter where the bat was, whether on the island, flying over the ocean, or foraging on the mainland, these cells always pointed in the same direction. It was as if the bat had a fixed compass needle embedded in its mind, providing a constant and reliable directional reference that never wavered, a true biological GPS. This internal compass is an amazing evolutionary tool. Imagine having a built-in sense that always tells you which way is north, or in the bat's case, "Batspire diban, Askemire dam, Akspire Boris dan, Aris, Sambar Derbe, Akstitsern. By Staunded Dachtin Istein, Wurstatenba, the head direction cells provide a stable frame of reference. When the bat turns its head, different cells in this network become active, but the overall system remains locked onto a specific direction in the world. This allows the bat to keep track of its orientation even when it is flying through complete darkness over a featureless ocean with no obvious visual cues to guide it. It is a masterpiece of natural engineering. This discovery was a monumental step forward in understanding animal navigation. It showed that the bat's brain creates its own internal representation of direction, an abstract concept that it can rely on consistently. The GPS data confirmed that the bats use this internal compass to set a course and stick to it with incredible accuracy. They weren't just wandering, they were executing a pre-planned flight path, guided by this extraordinary neural mechanism. This finding opened up a whole new way of thinking about how mammals, including ourselves, perceive and navigate through space. The animal kingdom has evolved many different solutions for the challenge of long-distance navigation. Perhaps the most famous navigators are birds, many of which undertake epic migrations across continents. For a long time, it has been known that birds use a variety of cues, including the sun, the stars, and most remarkably, the Earth's magnetic field. They have a built-in magnetic sense, almost like a traditional compass, that allows them to perceive the planet's magnetic lines and use them to find their way. This is a powerful tool, especially for journeys that span thousands of kilometers over unfamiliar territory. It was natural for scientists to wonder if bats used a similar method. Could these flying mammals also be tapping into the Earth's magnetic field to guide their nightly flights? The study on Latham Island provided a clear answer. The evidence suggested that the bats were not relying on magnetism at all. Instead of using a global cue like the magnetic field, the bats' internal compass seemed to be anchored to something else. Their head direction cells did not align with magnetic north. This indicated that bats and birds, despite both being masters of flight, have evolved fundamentally different strategies for navigation. So, if not magnetism or the stars, what were the bats using to set their internal compass? The answer appears to be landmarks. When the bats first left the island, they likely performed a kind of calibration flight. They learned to associate the signal from their internal compass with a prominent, stable landmark visible from their home roost, such as a distant mountain peak on the mainland. Once this connection was made, the landmark became the anchor for their entire directional system. The compass in their brain was now set, and they could rely on it even when the landmark was no longer visible. Like when flying in the dark. This process of learning is what makes the bat's navigation system so fascinating. It is not an innate, hardwired instinct like a sea turtle's magnetic sense. Instead, it is a flexible and learned behavior. The bats use their experience to create a cognitive map of their environment, anchoring their internal sense of direction to the physical world around them. This highlights a more sophisticated approach to navigation, one that relies on memory and learning rather than just instinct. It demonstrates that these small nocturnal creatures possess a complex mental world that we are only just beginning to understand. The discovery of how these Egyptian fruit bats navigate has profound implications that reach far beyond the world of bats. It turns out that humans, and indeed most mammals, have a very similar set of cells in their brains. We also have head direction cells, along with other specialized neurons called place cells and grid cells, which work together to form our own internal GPS. These cells create a map of our surroundings in our mind, allowing us to understand where we are, which way we are facing, and how to get to our destination. This connection is what makes the bat study so incredibly important. By understanding the principles of navigation in a bat, we gain a clearer window into the workings of our own minds. When we navigate through a familiar city, remembering which way to turn to get to a favorite coffee shop, we are using a neural system that is fundamentally similar to the one a bat uses to find a fruit tree in the dark. The bat's brain provides a simpler, more accessible model for studying these complex processes, helping us to decode the very foundations of mammalian navigation and spatial memory. These findings have significant potential for human health. Conditions such as Alzheimer's disease often affect a person's sense of direction and ability to navigate familiar places, which can be one of the most distressing early symptoms. By studying the healthy, functioning navigation system in animals like bats, scientists can better understand what goes wrong in the human brain during such diseases. This knowledge could one day lead to new diagnostic tools or therapies to help people who have lost their way, not in the world, but within their own minds. The humble bat could hold clues to preserving our own cognitive maps. Finally, this entire adventure underscores the immense value of conducting research in the wild. A laboratory is a controlled environment, but it is also an artificial one. It cannot replicate the vastness of the open ocean, the challenge of a 50-kilometer flight, or the sheer complexity of a real ecosystem. It was only by tracking these bats in their natural habitat that scientists could witness the full power of their navigational abilities. The wild world is the ultimate laboratory, and by studying life within it, we learn not only about the incredible animals we share our planet with, but also uncover fundamental truths about ourselves.